So, I mean, I could imagine that if you're doing, some sort of scam where you got to keep a person at zero income for a particular period of time in order to put together some sort of composite, up to and including things that have been proposed previously concerning tax evasion. Um, you probably could get real far if you happened to have the results of the special testing regime that was at work in Israel in early 2000s, right after September 11th. You know, where they got those nice little swabs and they can get all that information about where you've been based upon swabbing your shoes. That tech was not anywhere in the United States at the time. But it's now been coming to my attention that part of what happened was when I was in Ramallah, at the time I was, that Israel was using white phosphorus. Part of what they would do is they do these little things where they would try to, I don't know, were you trying to teach? Were you trying to warn? I mean, was there just not enough surface light? I mean, you might be able to deal with that if you dealt with your electricity access issues and other matters connected to appropriate infrastructure, like having access to the energy system in your own community so that you could have the kind of nighttime illumination without having to shoot flares and rockets up into the sky where a bunch of smoke came out and the air was all lit up for a while. Things looked all billowous, right? So my understanding is that in the spring of 2002, Israel was using white phosphorus weapons as well as white phosphorus in general as part of some nighttime illumination. And when I was in Ramallah, I was there when they used white phosphorus. And you wouldn't have trace sediment of white phosphorus on your shoes from walking around in all of the nice tourist places in Israel you were allowed to go to. But I had those shoes on when I was in Ramallah. And so they got that information when I was at the airport. And they've been running deals on it ever fucking since. Haven't they? Yes, they have. And nobody wanted to acknowledge that, and nobody wanted to speak about what the implications of that are. See, it's one of those really novel things because in the specific situation I was in, I was literally the only American. There were plenty of internationals from other countries. There were plenty of people from other countries, but I was literally the only American that did what I did, that did what we did. And, isolate, contain. I'm very novel in that regard. When are you going to admit it? I think you've gotten pretty much all the use value out of it you can. I think that you have to admit now that whatever you thought you were going to accomplish in all of these myriad regimes that you've allowed to occur, that the result is so contemptible and so heinous. I saw what you tried to set up this morning. I mean, on one hand, I guess you could say it was kind of cute, but the problem is just you didn't pull it off. And this keeps happening every fucking time. And I don't know what to say because it could have been called synergy. It could have been called kismet. You know, it could have been that I actually had some sort of latent psychic abilities, but your concept of latency is very different than what I'm sorry to say this, normal person, a person with normal morals and ethics, has a completely different understanding of what is appropriate given all of the other information that's available right now and it has been available for going on the last 20 years. It's going to be coming up, if not already, 19 years since I went to Israel and the West Bank for the first time. It was not illegal for me to go where I went. You know that? I didn't do anything illegal. I might have done one thing where, presumably, but you had no more of a right to try to make an example out of me than pretty much anybody else that was there. And you haven't been able to prove anything, and it looks really, really bad all this time later. So, are you admitting and acknowledging right fucking now that the reason you kidnapped me and you've been torturing me is because you did, in fact, use white phosphorus weapons on the Palestinian people, at least in Ramallah, during the incursions of spring of 2002? Did the Israeli Defense Forces use white phosphorus weapons on the Palestinian people in Ramallah in March and April of 2002? Did you? And was there trace evidence of that white phosphorus on my actual shoes when I went through the airport on my way back to the United States? And rather than acknowledging that I might have been exposed to a chemical hazard, you let me get through the fucking airport back into the United States, and you thought you'd play some sort of disgusting nuclear finance scheme with it ever fucking since. C equals 0. 3 years in a fucking row. How many more fucking carbon offset credits can you bond onto the bitch when you try to make her process murders? Yeah. That's real fucking cute, isn't it? Right fucking here. Right here on the goddamn public chemistry website. I'm looking at it right here. Canonical smiles. You like my smile, asshole? C equals 0. Add on that carbon offset credit. Fuck you. How fucking dare you anti-Semites? How fucking dare you murderous assholes think you're gonna get away with hacking into Edgar so that what? You can get a ketone on high school band? I mean, I'm sure in your little flip scheme somehow, diabolically, it sounds cute, but here's the problem. You're 19 years down the road and you get busted every fucking time. Enjoy what's going to be happening to your network in the next 60 days.